The next question then becomes, what is personality and how do you measure it? Historically, personality has been defined in many different ways. So perhaps the easiest way to define personality is in how it is measured. If we think of it like that, more often than not, personality ends up being defined as a set of behaviors that turn into habits that eventually get crystallized into tendencies. In many ways, that makes a lot of sense, because we know that more often than not, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. However, that does result in a bit of circular logic. It leads us to saying things like, you go to parties because you are extroverted, and the reason I know you are extroverted is because you go to so many parties. But is that the whole story? This circular logic underlying behavior-only personality assessments leaves us wondering what else. Just because I have gone to parties in the past doesn't mean I will always go to parties. And just because I've been assertive in some situations doesn't mean I will always be assertive. In other words, we know both from science and normal life that there are a host of other factors that can influence behavior at any given moment. The goal of the drive is to go a layer deeper. We don't just want to understand what people are likely to do, though we do want to understand that. We want to understand why people are likely to do it as well. But the tricky thing with predicting behavior through personality or values or drivers is that we're trying to measure a psychological construct that isn't immediately observable. It's not like we're measuring someone's height or weight. We're measuring traits like assertiveness or creativity or willingness to collaborate. Right now, you can probably imagine there are lots of different ways to measure and define concepts like these. Ultimately, we assume there is some kind of underlying construct, and the closer we can get to measuring the real thing, the more valid our assessment is. Of course, the question of how close is a hard one to answer, so we always talk about having evidence of validity. We've conducted lots of studies, and continue to conduct more on an ongoing basis, to demonstrate evidence that the drive is valid. We'll share more of this evidence for validity later in this presentation, and there's lots more in the tech manual, so I would encourage you to read that when you get it at the next part of the certification.